And Animals, Nicola Glenn. Nicola, good afternoon.
Hi, Sean.
First off, can you tell us about the investigation that you carried out? Where were the animals being transported from and where to?
Okay, the calves were being transported from the Republic of Ireland, and they were going across to France, where they should be rested for 12 hours. And then they were being transported across Europe, mainly to Holland and Spain.
And this would have been obviously all done on trucks?
That's correct, yes. Apart from the sea crossing, obviously, but they remain on the trucks when they're on the ferry.
Okay, and how long were you tracking these animals for?
We tracked them over the course of 3 days.
And so when they arrive, they presumably get on a ferry from Ireland and they arrive in France. What happens to them when they arrive in France?
When they arrive in France, they should be immediately unloaded at a control post within the vicinity. So there's 2 control posts in Cherbourg, and the control post combined can take around 4,500 calves.
So how long are they there for?
For 12 hours.
And then they're loaded back on trucks again?
That's correct, and transported to factory farms in the Netherlands and to veal facilities in Spain, mainly. But Ireland are now also exporting their calves to Poland.
And is the issue mostly around what happens to them when they arrive in France? Because presumably they're pretty tired when they arrive in France.
Absolutely, Sean. They're very tired and exhausted. They're such young animals. The issue isn't just surrounding what's happening to them when they arrive in France. The issue is surrounding the journeys that they're being put under, the times, the length of the journey. It's unnecessary.
And these are calves, obviously. So when they arrive in France, are they fed?
Yes, they are fed when they arrive in France. They should have access to water on board the trucks whilst in transit, but this doesn't very often happen.
Right. Okay. And in France, when they arrived in France, how were they fed?
They are fed with what's called a milk replacer, and they're lined up alongside troughs, and the milk replacer is put into the trough. They take the liquid and they're moved on very, very quickly.
Now, is the fact that they're moved on very, very quickly, is that in part, at least, I suppose, a function of that there's so many animals to feed that it puts the people operating that facility under pressure to do that?
Sean, you're absolutely correct. This is one of the issues with these control posts. There are so many animals going through in such a short period of time with very few workers and facilities, that these calves and the workers are put under pressure to get pushed through the system. So, understandably, some of the workers get frustrated. These calves are unweaned animals. They do not understand how to drink from these troughs. They have what's called a suckle reflex when they're that age. They only know how to suck. They don't know how to drink. And many of them require guidance in order to take in those fluids.
And so you did manage to shoot some footage in that facility in France, and what kind of things did you see?
We saw absolute brutal handling of the animals. They were being hit over the head with sticks to move them on from the feeding trough. They were being kicked, they were being thrown, they were being stamped on, they were being pulled by their ears.
Was this common in the footage that you saw, or was there perhaps 1 or 2 individuals who kind of lost the head?
There was one specific individual, but unfortunately, the workers that were in the vicinity just watched on. And that also included the owner of the control post.
And now then, so they're there for 12 hours and then they're stuck on more trucks. And
that's correct.
Did you manage to follow them to the next place?
Well, just going back to the control post, I would like to add that these control posts are supposed to be places of rest for these animals. They were so overcrowded, these control posts, that not one animal could lie down to rest. There were just too many animals.
Were you able to ascertain whether any animals were kind of mortally wounded by this mistreatment?
We did see dead calves.
Crikey. Now, so then they're loaded on a truck again, and where do they go after that?
The ones that we trailed, sorry, Sean, the ones that we trailed on that day, they all went to factory veal farms in the Netherlands.
And how were they treated there, or do you know?
They weren't handled so brutally, but the facilities that they have to live in are horrendous. They are put into individual pens. The pens have hard floors. They're either slatted to allow the excrement to fall through, or they're on concrete hard floors. They have no bedding. They have just enough room to be able to turn around, and they are given no enrichment, and there is no interaction. And they are there until they are taken to the slaughterhouse.
Now, now, obviously, this is illegal because there are regulations, are there not, about how much rest the animals are supposed to be given and how they're supposed to be treated?
That's correct, yes, there are regulations.
And so the French authorities, as I understand it, are investigating what happened there, particularly that individual.
Yes, that's correct, yes.
And what has been the response from the Irish government, given that these were Irish cattle?
The Irish government today have responded by saying that they adhere to the strict welfare regulations of the European Union. But unfortunately, this is not the case with what we have seen. You cannot say that the way that these calves were treated is a one-off. They're saying that it's a one-off incident. You cannot say that when, as a government, they are sending animals across to the Middle East to be exposed to absolutely extreme, horrendous conditions. So it cannot be excused as a one-off incident.
I suppose on the basis of that French facility, though, is there kind of a legal issue in the sense that Ireland can say, well, it's not our problem anymore because they were in France when this happened?
Yes, but at the end of the day, the Irish authorities have to approve every single journey of every single Irish animal. And it is their responsibility to ensure that those animals transported are transported in a way that will not cause any injury or suffering.
Now, Eyes on Animals have done this kind of thing before, so this isn't a one-off, I take it?
No, we did an investigation last year, and this was actually a continuation from our investigation last year.
So are all countries equally guilty here to an extent, or at least all countries that are exporting or importing cattle? Or are there countries in Europe that are doing it properly?
All I can say is that the trails that I've done, the investigations that I have done, I have always seen breaches to the rules. With the amount of animals that are being transported every day, it is impossible for any authority to ensure that the welfare of those animals is looked after. Impossible.
Nicola Glenn is spokesperson and inspector for Eyes on Animal for the UK and Ireland. Nicola, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you very much, Dawn.
Now, we did contact the Department of Agriculture to tell them that we were going to be talking to Nicola. We were sent a statement from Minister Michael Creed, the Minister for Agriculture, and said that he condemns in the strongest terms any ill treatment of livestock and would urge any persons who have direct knowledge or evidence of breaches of animal welfare to report it to the relevant authorities without any delay. In relation to the export of live animals, Ireland applies strict controls in relation to welfare of animals, including during transport, and has procedures and checks in place to ensure compliance with EU and national legislation. Prior to export, all livestock undergo an animal health and welfare check carried out by a department official veterinarian to ensure that only fit and healthy livestock are certified for export. All trucks are inspected and checked for water, spacing and other legislative requirements prior to departure. Where non-compliance is identified, appropriate remedial action is taken. The department continues to engage with their French counterparts and understand that progress has been made by the French authorities in their investigations. And as you heard there, one individual has been arrested in connection specifically with that, with the footage of a worker stamping on an animal. Then again, a lot of things that are said in this statement, the Eyes on Animals would dispute some of that. Anyway, well, we'll